My beloved brothers and sisters, may Allah bless you all. Today I want to talk about a very important topic, one that affects all of us in one way or another. It is about how to protect ourselves from zina, fornication and adultery. You see, my brothers and sisters, in today's world, temptation is everywhere. It is on our phones, in our social circles, on social media. It's constantly calling us. But Allah has warned us, and do not approach zina. Indeed, it is an immorality and an evil way. Pure 1732. Notice how Allah didn't just say, don't commit zina. He said, don't go near it. Because once you go near, it becomes very difficult to turn back. So how do we protect ourselves? Let's go through 5 key ways. Guard your gaze. My beloved brothers and sisters, the eyes are the doorway to the heart. What you look at affects how you feel, how you think, and ultimately how you act. The Prophet Muhammad warned us about this when he said, the glance is a poisoned arrow of shaitan. Whoever lowers his gaze for the sake of Allah, he will grant him the sweetness of faith. Now, my brothers and sisters, let's be honest. Everywhere we go, whether it's online, on billboards, in the marketplace, or even within our own circles, there are things that we should not be looking at. But shaitan comes and whispers, it's just a look. What's the harm? And that's where the trap begins. You see, one glance leads to another, then another, and before you know it, your heart starts desiring what it shouldn't. That's how sins creep in. Slowly, quietly, and before you even realize you're caught up in something that is difficult to walk away from. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're walking through a beautiful garden filled with fresh fruits, but there's a sign that says, do not touch. What happens? The more you stare at the fruit, the more tempting it becomes. The same applies to zina, my brothers and sisters. The more we entertain our gaze, the harder it becomes to resist the temptation. That is why Allah didn't just say don't commit zina. He said, and do not approach zina. Indeed, it is an immorality and an evil way. Quran 1732. Notice the words, do not even approach it. Because once you step close, it pulls you in. It becomes harder to walk away. This is why guarding your gaze is not just about what you see, but what you allow into your heart. Now, someone might say, but Mufti, I didn't mean to look, it just happened. That's true, my beloved brothers and sisters. Sometimes we don't intend to see something inappropriate, but what do you do after that first glance? That's the real test. The scholars say the first accidental glance is forgiven, but the second is a choice. When you catch yourself looking at something haram, immediately turn away and remind yourself, I am doing this for the sake of Allah. And let me tell you, my brothers and sisters, when you lower your gaze, Allah fills your heart with something greater, contentment, peace, and a special connection with Him. When you resist temptation for the sake of Allah, He grants you something far better. So, start today. Train your eyes, discipline your heart, and seek the pleasure of Allah, because true strength is not in giving in to desires, but in controlling them for the sake of the one who created you. Choose your friends wisely. My beloved brothers and sisters, your company shapes who you are. The people you surround yourself with have a direct impact on your heart, your mindset, and even your relationship with Allah. The Prophet Muhammad gave us a powerful reminder when he said, a person is upon the religion of his close friend, so let him look at whom he befriends. Now think about this for a moment. If you spend your time with those who constantly remind you of Allah, who encourage you to do good, who speak about meaningful things, and who help you stay on the right path, you will naturally find yourself improving. You will feel more connected to your faith, more aware of your actions, and more motivated to seek the pleasure of Allah. But on the other hand, my brothers and sisters, if your friends are those who pull you towards sin, who normalize haram relationships, who encourage you to follow your desires, then you will feel the weight of that influence. Even if you start with good intentions, you will eventually be dragged into habits that distance you from Allah. Shaitan works step by step. He doesn't rush you into sin all at once. No. He starts small. He makes you feel comfortable in the wrong environment. He tells you it's just a bit of fun, don't be too strict, don't overthink. But before you know it, your heart becomes desensitized to sin, and the things that once made you uncomfortable start to feel normal. Let me give you an example. If you walk into a perfume shop, even if you don't buy anything, you will walk out smelling good. And if you walk into a blacksmith's workshop, even if you don't touch anything, you will leave with the smell of smoke on your clothes. Your environment affects you, whether you realize it or not. That is why the right company is a blessing. And my brothers and sisters, choosing good friends doesn't mean you cut off everyone who is struggling with their faith. No, be kind, be supportive, but know your limits. If your presence is helping someone become closer to Allah, that's beautiful. But if their presence is pulling you away from Allah, then you need to step back. Because at the end of the day, on the day of judgment, your friends won't be able to answer for you. Everyone will stand alone before Allah. And imagine how painful it would be if on that day you realized that the people you surrounded yourself with were the ones who distracted you from your ultimate purpose. So ask yourself today, who are my closest friends? Do they bring me closer to Allah or do they pull me away? Because a true friend is not the one who just makes you laugh. A true friend is the one who reminds you of your Creator. Stay away from private conversations with the opposite gender. My beloved brothers and sisters, let me ask you a question. Why do we lock our doors at night? Why do we keep our valuables safe? Because we don't want harm to come to them. We don't leave them exposed. Now think about this. If we are so careful about our material possessions, shouldn't we be even more careful about our hearts? You see, my brothers and sisters, Shaitan is very clever. He doesn't come to you and say, commit zina. No. He knows you wouldn't do that immediately. So what does he do? He starts small. He says, it's just a message. What's the harm? Then it turns into, we're just talking, nothing serious. Then we're just friends. And before you know it, your heart is attached, your thoughts are distracted, and your connection with Allah starts to weaken. The Prophet Muhammad warned us about this. He said, whenever a man and a woman are alone together, Shaitan is the third one among them. Now, someone might say, but Mufti, we're just texting, we're not alone. My brothers and sisters, understand this. Shaitan doesn't need a physical space to work. He works through your emotions. He makes you feel comfortable in a situation that could lead to danger. He makes you justify it. But ask yourself, would you feel comfortable if your conversations were displayed in front of your parents, in front of your spouse, in front of Allah on the day of judgment? Because they will be. And let's be honest, these things don't start with bad intentions. They start innocently, but that's exactly how the trap is set. The problem isn't just the conversation, it's the attachment that grows, the excitement of a reply, the emotional dependency, the feeling of someone understands me. And once your heart is attached, it becomes very difficult to step away. This is why Islam sets boundaries, not because it wants to restrict you, but because it wants to protect you. Allah knows us better than we know ourselves. He created us, and He knows how desires work. The same way we don't play with fire, we shouldn't play with emotions that can lead us to sin. Because, my brothers and sisters, the regret of falling into haram is far greater than the temporary pleasure of entertaining it. So, be honest with yourself. If a conversation is unnecessary, keep it short, keep it professional, and most importantly, keep it within the limits set by Allah, because what starts as just a message can easily turn into a test that distances you from your purpose. Fast and strengthen your relationship with Allah. My beloved brothers and sisters, the desires we have within us are part of being human. Allah created us with emotions, feelings, and inclinations. But He also gave us a way to control them, to channel them in a way that brings us closer to Him, rather than pulling us towards sin. And one of the most powerful ways to do that is through fasting. The Prophet Muhammad gave us a beautiful remedy. He said, O young people, whoever among you can marry, let him do so, for it lowers the gaze and guards chastity, and whoever cannot, let him fast, for it will be a shield for him. Now, think about this, my brothers and sisters. Why did the Prophet compare fasting to a shield? because a shield protects you in battle. It stops the enemy from harming you. And in the battle against your desires, fasting is your shield. It strengthens your self-control. It disciplines your soul. It teaches you patience. When you fast, you are telling your body, no, you are not in control. I am in control. You feel hunger, but you don't eat. You feel thirsty, but you don't drink. And this training extends to all aspects of life. If you can resist food and water, you can resist sinful temptations. If you can say no to something halal for the sake of Allah, how much easier will it be to say no to something haram? And fasting is not just about staying hungry, my brothers and sisters. It's about purification. It's about reconnecting with Allah. When you fast sincerely, your heart becomes lighter, your prayers feel more meaningful, your connection with the Qur'an deepens. Because fasting is not just a physical act, it's a spiritual detox. It cleanses your soul from distractions, from excessive desires, from the whispers of shaitan. But fasting is not only for Ramadan. The Prophet used to fast on Mondays and Thursdays. He encouraged fasting on the white days, 13th, 14th, and 15th of every Islamic month. He told us that fasting one day for the sake of Allah distances a person from hellfire by 70 years. Imagine that. A single day of fasting, and Allah moves you 70 years away from punishment. Now, my brothers and sisters, some might say, but Mufti, fasting is difficult. Yes, it requires effort, but so does everything valuable in life. The struggle is what makes it so rewarding. The Prophet told us that on the day of judgment, when people are scared, when the sun is close, when people are drowning in their sweat, there will be a special door in Jannah called Ar-Rayyan. And do you know who will enter through it? Those who fasted for the sake of Allah. So when you feel tempted, when your desires feel strong, use fasting as a shield. Train yourself, strengthen your connection with Allah, and remember, the more you sacrifice for His sake, the more He will bless you with something far better. Make dua and seek Allah's help. My beloved brothers and sisters, let me ask you, who controls your heart? Who controls your desires? Who can protect you from falling into sin? It is none other than Allah, the most merciful, the most powerful. You see, my brothers and sisters, no matter how strong we think we are, no matter how much willpower we have, without the help of Allah, we are weak. If Allah does not guide us, who will? If Allah does not protect us, who can? That is why the Prophet Muhammad constantly made dua. Even though he was the most pious, the most guided, the most protected of all human beings, he would say, "O turn of hearts, keep my heart firm upon your religion." Now think about this for a moment. If the Prophet, the best of creation, made this dua regularly, then how much more do we need to make it? How much more do we need to seek Allah's help in staying away from sin? The truth is, my brothers and sisters, we cannot fight the whispers of shaitan alone. We cannot resist temptation on our own. That is why dawah is our greatest weapon. When we sincerely call upon Allah, He answers. He makes what is difficult easy. He strengthens our hearts. He removes harmful desires and replaces them with the love of obedience. And the beauty of dua is that there are no barriers between you and Allah. You don't need an appointment. You don't need fancy words. You don't need to be in a particular place. You can be in your room, in your car, in sujood, or even lying in bed. Just raise your hands and speak to Him from your heart. Say, Ya Allah, protect me from sin. Ya Allah, purify my heart. Ya Allah, strengthen me against my desires. And remember, my brothers and sisters, when you ask Allah sincerely, He will respond. Maybe not in the way you expect, but always in the way that is best for you. He may remove certain people from your life because they are a test. He may block certain paths because they lead to destruction. He may replace your struggle with something far greater, but He will never leave you empty-handed. So never underestimate the power of dua. Keep asking, keep seeking His help, and never think, I have made so much dua but nothing is changing, because every dua is heard, every dua is written, and every dua will be answered in its perfect time. Keep knocking at the door of Allah, because He never turns away those who call upon Him.